Hey, and welcome back to another, or this month's edition of Black, Female, and 50, the Power Trifecta. I am your host, Janice Sutherland. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a former corporate CEO turned career strategist for Black women over the age of 40, helping them to realign, recreate, and celebrate their lifestyle while staying true to their personal and professional priorities and values. Thanks again for joining us today. Last month, we spoke about strengthening our mental wellness as a mid career Black woman and how organisations can support us in doing that. And my guest last month was Gillian Wells. This month, I am talking about the challenges women over 50, Black women over 50, face when it comes to navigating the world of recruitment. Now, why this interest? Why do I want to pick this topic? Well, my interest was piqued by the conversations, I've had with clients and various research articles and surveys. And the things I found, there's some interesting facts that I found that over the next 20 years, the 60 plus generation will grow by 40%. Within just 2 years, 1 in 2 of the workforce will be over 50. The pandemic has been especially hard on older employees seeking to reclaim jobs lost in the early days of lockdowns. And many women or many people are saying that they fear the workplace upheaval brought on by COVID-19 has reinforced some bosses' beliefs that professionals in their 50s and beyond are less inclined to return to offices or adapt to new ways of working. And I found a lot more research because in a recent report by Generation, the organisation surveyed 3,000, almost 4,000 employed and unemployed people, as well as 1,400 hiring managers across 7 countries. So quite an extensive study. Their findings revealed a consistent pattern of bias against workers aged 45 and older across geographies. And with the Great Resignation being a concern for organisations, they've now turned on to the idea of employing older workers, but there's a looming dichotomy when it comes to the methods and processes of recruitment, which can often be alienating for Black women in the recruitment process. And bear with me here, because as I said, I found this fascinating. I saw another report, another study by Santander that said, and it's British people, British workers, who believe that it was too late to change careers by the age of 45 because they can't keep up with technology. And they had a study of 2,000 adults, and 21% said they want to retrain, start a new career, but they worry that they're too old. Another 1 in 5, should I say, felt that they lacked the digital skills needed to take the step. And 30% of the adults said the biggest barriers to changing careers was a fear of change and a lack of confidence. And almost a quarter worry that they don't have the ability to learn a new job or simply don't know where to begin. So, why this is relevant to a Black woman over 50, you ask? Understanding that there's a triple minority status in the recruitment world because we're Black, we're 50, and we're female. And it's a necessary part of navigating the recruitment field. There's a trifecta for older unemployed women or women trying to change jobs, in that they're more likely to face discrimination. And if they lose their jobs, they may experience a longer period of unemployment. And if they do find work, they may have to take a pay cut. And my last study I'm going to quote here. The 2018 AARP report said 64% of women have been the target or witnessed age discrimination, but it's just the tip of the iceberg because it's estimated that another 3% of older workers have never ever made an official complaint to a supervisor, human resource, anything. And in recruitment, this is where again, for me, in recruitment, 86 employers use job interviews mediated by technology, which I was astounded at. Such a high percentage, and a growing portion of which is automated video interviews and the increased use of artificial insemination. I've got the word, artificial I've forgotten the word. You know what I mean? AI. Anyway, my guest panelists this month are Brucine Francis, a recruitment director with over 20 years experience in the recruitment agency field, and Daisy Wright, founder and CEO of the Right Career Solution, who for over 15 years has coached numerous executives, managers, and mid-career professionals to attaining new roles. Let me just bring these ladies on screen. Hi, ladies. Hi, hi,
Hello.
hi.
Hello there.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me in this month's Black 50 and Female, or Black Female and 50 Plus, the Power Trifecta. I call us the Power Trifecta because we are wonderful, magical beings, and we have so much going for us that organizations, employers underestimate. But I think sometimes there's times that we underestimate ourselves too. So I wanted to have you guys on as you're all versed in the recruitment field. And really, it's just a conversation to let's just talk about what it's like to be in this recruitment field, in this recruitment world. I, for one, no longer, I think two things went against me right now in the recruitment area, that I no longer live in sort of the US, UK, or Canada, the technology more driven areas. I'm living on an island. And I'm no longer in the space to want to be recruited, being self-employed. So I'm relying on experts like yourself to give me an insight into what's happening there. So listening audience, thank you so much for joining me. We know we've got Barbados in the house so far. Everybody else, you can come and join us. Feel free to drop your questions in. Feel free to add your voices. This program is only great as great as the audience participation, and it's for you just as much as it's for me, for you to learn what's happening. So let me shut up now. Let me shut up and pose my first question. So, Brucine and Daisy, what are some of the challenges from your experience that older workers can face when entering the recruitment market?
So I'll answer first from my perspective. So it varies. So it could be that they haven't been out in the market for quite a long while. So it's frightening. The world has changed. So it's what's going on out there. So am I going to fit into an organization? What's the culture of that organization going to be like? Will I be accepted for me? Because ultimately, whatever age we are still who we are. So sometimes there's a level of coaching in terms of actually helping somebody over 50 into a new role. But it also depends on that individual, is my personal view.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Daisy, your views?
Yes, for sure. I agree with Brucine. And in addition to that, I think what most older workers, and particularly, Black women in this age group that you're targeting, we need a mindset shift, because sometimes we buy into what people think, who we should and should not be. And we need to clarify that. We need to recognize that we have value, and we need to know how to showcase that value. We need to focus on how we can contribute to an organization rather than focusing so much on, we're over 50 or we're 45 plus, and all things, things are not going to happen now. Our way. So there are so many things that we need to do. And one of the things that, we should also think about is that the fact that with age comes wisdom, and we can use that to our advantage. And I'll share other points of view as we go along.
Fabulous. I love that. With age comes wisdom. Yeah. And experience and all the great stuff, all the things that employers want out when they're seeking people. But then all of a sudden it's like this, the wheels, the brakes go on when they realize you're not the young whippersnapper they perceive they would have in their employment. So Daisy, I just want to expand on that a little bit. You touched on mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you think that mindset changes, do you think, or things women can do to change their mindset?
First of all, it's to look internally, because we have been, women in general, and particularly Black women, we have been undervalued for too long. And then we buy into that concept. So we have to start looking from within. And, tell ourselves that, listen, you are as good or even better than the next person. And that's a conversation we have to have with ourselves.
Yeah.
That's one. And then start reflecting on the impact we have made and we continue to make, whether it's in society in general or whether it's in our workplace. And own it. Own your accomplishments. Because the more you do that, the more you're going to grow in confidence, and the more you're able to talk to people about who you are, what it is you have done, what your capabilities are, and how you can add value to the organization.
Fabulous. Thank you for
I
that.
agree.
Bruce, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, and also, that element of self-doubt creeps in. So it's about a mindset shift. I think I've always used my mindset in terms of, and I think that's been from an early age, in terms of making sure that I feel like I'm accelerating as an individual. And I think a lot of the women I speak to use exactly that mindset, because we are as powerful as we want to be. And it's only up to us. We're the people who actually make those decisions. So if you take color out of the equation, everyone is exactly the same. We're as powerful as anyone, and we can do whatever we want to do. And I've always been of that mindset. But I think what's really key, it's about having that conversation, like Daisy said, with yourself, and just having that real focus. And if you need to, like, write a love letter to yourself in terms of, I am amazing and I am going to be the next CEO, whatever it is that you want, then do that, because never underestimate the power of a woman, is all I have to say.
Exactly. And you know what? Let me just add one thing to that, to what Lucy just said. Last year, or was it in 2020? Last year, actually, I created a little banner that says, I am proud of me. And I share it with people, because the same way we go out and we tell other people how great they are, we don't do that to ourselves, because we keep thinking, oh, they're going to think we're bragging. Well, listen, if you have the evidence, that's not bragging. If you can show that you have concrete evidence that you did this, that's not bragging. And so I have the little banner that says, I am proud of me. And I share it with people when I see when I see they post things on LinkedIn, for example, and I think that was great. I send them a personalized one to say, I am proud of me. And I do it mostly to women, because we are the ones who feel we have to be 100% qualified for that position before we apply. While men, they only want to see, only want to see 40% and their resumes in the pile. So we need to do that, and we need to internalize it so that it reflects on the outside and demonstrate the confident woman or the confident person who we are.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that. Sorry, I'm just going to show you my banner. Can you see that?
I am the CEO. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
I've got various things in the back of mine, but I can't pick up my laptop. So, but I'm glad you said that, because I mean, for anybody who knows me personally knows I'm not shy at coming forward. And you talk about bragging, and it's not a brag if it's the truth. No. And for me, nobody will tell your story better than you can.
Absolutely.
So why are you giving the power to somebody else? You need to control your own narrative. So I'm all for that. Get your brag on. Definitely. Yeah. So my next question. So he'll probably just skip over this. I want to talk about the recruitment piece a bit. And some of the things I'm digging into this, and I'm looking at LinkedIn. I'm looking at, I can usually tell, and this is probably bad, I can usually tell someone's age by looking at their LinkedIn. Yeah. And usually it's not that difficult, because it's the first thing they normally have a statement that says X amount of years at this type of, skill set. And to me, that's a bit of a giveaway in this ageist society. So how should women over 50 maybe structure their resume or portray how they are? Because this is all the thing about, do we hide our age type of thing and stuff like that. So how should they structure their resume?
So for me, of course, organizations are going to look at CVs, and they can, like you say, identify somebody's age potentially. But I don't think we should all either shy away from that either, because ultimately, like Daisy has said, with age comes wisdom and experience and knowledge and all of those key elements that are really crucial. So I don't think you should have a 6-page CV. I think it should be 2 pages, and then you summarize like the real importance, and especially you kind of create a CV for that particular role as well, because if you want to make an impact, then that profile has to stand out. So take your age away, take away hobbies if necessary, because sometimes hobbies can actually, bring out your age to a certain extent. And then just make sure it's impactful around the experience that you have. Really make sure. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And just to add to what Brucine just said, you have to try to make your resume what we call ageless. And it's not that you're going to downplay who you are or downplay your achievements, but on a resume, in resume land, we call the top third of the resume prime real estate.
Right.
So anything you want the reader to see, that's what you're going to highlight in that space. Now, you may have done something remarkable 20 years ago. It doesn't mean you cannot incorporate that success, that accomplishment in that statement. The other piece to it is when you go to the end of the resume, say page 2 or page 3, depending, you don't necessarily have to list the company you can list the company, but you don't necessarily have to list, well, I was there from 1999 until 2000. All you need is probably the company name, especially if it was a big name company, and just who you were, what title you had there. There is nothing, remember that a resume is not a legal document. In saying that, I'm not saying you should lie.
Yes.
I'm not saying you should lie. I'm saying you are going to incorporate the information that you want those people to read. Don't give them anything that's not relevant. I usually say if they ask for oranges, give them oranges. Do not give them apples and grapes unless you know the apples and grapes are going to make you outstanding. It's going to distinguish you from everybody else. So those are some of the little things that people can do to make their resume ageless.
And actually, as was Daisy said, it's the top part of the CV. So literally, when someone reviews a CV, they literally look at it. It's 3-4 seconds, and that's it. So the impactfulness has to be at the top. Absolutely.
Exactly. So if they don't capture what they're looking for in those split seconds, even though you may have amazing accomplishments later on in the resume, if they don't see it there, your resume is going to go into file 13 where, okay, that's it. We're not going to see this person.
Yeah. Fabulous. So let me I know we've got a few people joining us. We've been seen, Derval, Gail, thank you so much. Again, just say if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments, and we'll get the ladies to answer your questions as well. Now I'm gonna be a little bit controversial, dare I say,
of
here.
Course.
So how can older women compete against younger women in the market, or should they?
I'll take that on first. Because I'm not sure that they should be competing against any demographics for that matter. Because they can't control certain things. What they can control is, who am I? What have I done? What do I have to show? What do I have to demonstrate that I am as good a candidate as anybody else? So, in fact, the competition should be focused on you, the individual, rather than outside. Yes, you need to know what you're up against, but you're not going to spend that much energy in that space. You need to focus on, listen, what is it that I'm good at? What is it that people say I'm good at? And how can I articulate that to the next employer? Yes, ageism is gonna come. It's gonna come. But are you gonna focus there? Rather than saying, oh, well, I'm so afraid they might not hire me because of my age, say, listen, I have been in this. I've been doing this for a long time. I can hit the ground running quickly, as opposed to somebody who is just fresh out of university. So it's the verbiage that you want. It's the narrative that you really will come up with, as opposed to focusing on who is younger and who is older and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. So my answer is no, absolutely not. You actually don't know who you're competing against. Like, you don't know. So that's the other thing. So the only person you're competing against is yourself. So all you need to do is focus on getting yourself as prepared for that interview as possible, and read the room. So if you're in a meeting with a number of individuals, read the room, because you need to make sure that your language, the way you present yourself, that you're coming across as being right for that organization. So an example is you just, if you're in a room with a number of individuals who they may be coming across as being really quite young, and let's just use the word dynamic as an example. Not everyone is dynamic, but you need to make sure that you're just giving yourself the energy that's required for the room. I think that's probably the best way to formulate that answer around energy. But it's about the energy and matching who's in the room, because as I said, and Daisy's mentioned it, it's your experience is your experience, and only you can verbalize that experience, but you articulate it to match who's in the room, the audience in the room.
Fabulous. Look, both of those answers. So I've kind of touched on the resume and competing or not competing, or owning who you are and everything like that. But one of the things that came up a lot was the use of technology. And I'm not going to lie, the past couple of days I'm preparing for a trip and I've had to do a lot of stuff online. And I don't know if I've been hiding under a rock or anything, but the technology has kind of upped its game. And not in a positive way, to be honest. Some of the things I've coming from a customer perspective, hasn't been the most positive experience. But anyway, so what are some of the latest technologies, do you think, that are being used in the recruitment world that we really should be aware of?
So videos is definitely one of those, and that's at application stage. So employers are asking for videos, and sometimes they're quite difficult to navigate. But then I think we only make things as difficult as we need them to be. YouTube is our answer and our solution to actually finding out how to do whatever we need to do. So, we only make it as difficult as we want it to be. So videos, and also if you're not comfortable doing videos, no one's going to know that you've practiced 500 times in advance before sending through your application, as an example. So videos, it's not difficult to navigate, but I think it's a really tough one for individuals who are not used to doing a video to kind of sell themselves, I guess, is probably one of the examples I'd use.
Yeah. Daisy?
Oh yes, obviously it's videos, because we are here right now using the technology, which is Zoom. There are others. There are WebEx. There is Google Meets, Google Teams, and all of that. So familiarize yourself with what's out there. And in terms of some of the interviews, and Brucine, you can speak to that. There is technology now where you're literally being interviewed by this, like the interview is being conducted, but you're not seeing the other person. Now there are upside and downside to that. I like to make sure that I'm making eye contact with whoever I'm speaking with, but it comes with the territory. So definitely you will want to familiarize yourself with all the technology that's available. And then when it happens, like us in a Zoom environment, for example, make sure that your environment is professional. And even how you position yourself on screen. I was coaching a lady the other day, and when I said to her, make sure your laptop faces your laptop, raise your laptop a little bit, because what was happening, I was only seeing her head and her voice. I wasn't seeing her mouth at all. And she did not even realize. And I said, if we're not seeing your mouth, it means somebody there cannot read your lips. right? So you have to make sure that
Yeah.
yes, get
Yeah.
yourself familiarize yourself with all the new things that come with new technology.
Absolutely. And I think also, if you're not familiar, then do a run through with somebody. So I was helping someone out the other day and I literally showed them how to use Teams, do the presenter mode, because I think you can only rely on other people to support you. There's only so much that that you can rely on like the internet and things from that perspective. But also, if you're aware that the organization uses technology like Slack as an example, it might be like, wow, how on earth do I use that? But again, you can access information on how to use that. So because that comes up in interviews, doesn't it? The questions, how familiar are you with using
Yes.
Teams?
Exactly.
So, it's just
Yeah.
familiarizing yourself with those technologies and just understanding just how they work, what they do. And I think that's useful.
And you know what? I would just want to
Fabulous.
add a little piece to that. That's where mentoring, or what we would probably term reverse mentoring, comes into play. Because if you're an older
Yes.
worker and you know the younger people, they're into technology, no harm
Yeah.
in saying to them,
Yeah.
listen, can I learn something from
Yeah.
you?
Show me.
You
Yeah.
know, we
Yeah.
usually we tend to think of mentoring as this it's somebody a senior
Yeah.
person mentoring a younger person, but it works the other way as well. So take advantage of
Really nice.
these young people who are so skilled
Yeah.
with these new technology and be
Yeah.
open to learn.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, before we get to the interview process, one of the things I've also come across, and I've not been exposed to it much myself, is the use of AI, artificial intelligence. Now I know the
Yes,
word.
artificial
The word I
intelligence.
wanted to say before was not intelligence, and I knew it was the wrong word, and I couldn't say it. It was totally the wrong word.
I
But
heard you,
the
but
use
I heard you when I was behind the studio, but I couldn't come out to remind you that
yeah.
it's artificial intelligence.
So the use of artificial intelligence in recruitment, because that I've not been exposed to it myself, as I said, but I know there's been a lot of use of AI to almost filter applications, because when you're applying online, that in itself is a use of AI, because they're looking for keywords and stuff like that. Do you have any exposure or any experience, or if you can share about navigating maybe the online recruitment, or that application use of AI when making applications?
So from my perspective, and just with some of the organizations I've worked with, AI is only comes into place in terms of like filtering keywords out of CVs. So if it wouldn't look for,
Right.
as an example, age, it'll be, let's just say you're looking for a director of something, it'll be looking for those keywords. Typically when you
Right.
apply for opportunities, there's if you have to put in your ethnicity, your age, and a number of other aspects, a lot of that data is actually hidden behind. It's like hidden, so HR can actually review that versus a recruitment or talent acquisition team. And so when it comes to navigating AI, it's quite difficult because not everything gets pulled through from a recruiter perspective to view that. And also,
Yeah.
we're not, it's illegal, isn't it, to actually not hire somebody based on age. So you're looking purely on skills. So that's why a lot of that information is actually hidden in the background. So you make your assumptions
Yeah.
based on the
I'm
CV
being
that you
tongue in
view.
cheek here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So of
Daisy, you have any
course,
experience with anything?
yes, one of the technologies that they use, and I think Bruce would have alluded to that, is the ATS, or the applicant tracking system. And
Right.
that's why it's important for people to incorporate some of the verbiage from the job posting into your resume, because that's what the ATS has been programmed to look for. So you're right, it's not going to be looking for any age or anything like that. So make sure you have dissected the job posting to see what are the common words they're using in this job posting, and make sure you weave those words into the resume. The other thing too is that how these, and I usually encourage my clients, whether they're older clients or not, I usually encourage them to take it a step further when they're submitting applications. So yes, they're going to follow the rules by applying
Right.
online because that's what they ask them to do. But I say to them, listen, you
Yes.
could have a great resume and they're looking for 20 good people. Once the applicant tracking system has taken out those 20, you could be number 21 and your resume would not have been selected. So I say to them, take it a step further. Send those people a hard copy of your resume and cover letter send it by snail mail for two reasons. One, people love to see their names in print. So if I see an envelope falling on my desk that says Daisy Wright, I'm going to open it. That's one. In the letter, though, you're going to say to them, I have followed the rules by applying online. However, you and I know that great candidates get missed sometimes. So I decided to take the initiative and send you a hard copy. You have covered two sides. You have said, I followed the rules. I applied online.
Yeah.
However, here I am taking an additional step. You never know what might happen. They might say, wow, this is a great resume. Let me put it on the pile so that when I'm looking at all the resumes, this one will be among them. So those are some of the little tips and tricks that people can use to get eyeballs on their application. And especially again, when you start thinking of ageism and things like that. When somebody you send a great resume and they're reading and they say, wow, this is great. I would love to speak to somebody like that. Age gets tossed through the window, right?
You can go another step further as well, is using. Sorry, I was going to say another step further is using LinkedIn. Have I got a delay?
True.
Sorry.
Yes.
I think I've got a late apology. So using LinkedIn. So you use LinkedIn and you can, which I love and I recommend it all the time, is if you may not find the right hiring manager, but you might find somebody within the organization. If you try and connect to them, then again, this goes back to technology, but you literally use your mobile and you send a video and you say, hi, this is Brucine. I've sent you my CV. Here's just a little bit about me. You've only got a minute, but that is impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Fabulous. Some great tips there. Some great tips. Now, just touching on that. And this is probably just your general view from your point of view. So what can HR recruiters do to recognize age as part of the DEI discussion?
From my perspective, in terms of what I know is happening with some organizations, is that obviously there's a huge focus on diversity. Within diversity is also age. Mm-hmm. So some organizations, so one of the companies a company I work with and work for, they actually have what they class as a returners program. And so within the returners program, it could be any person of any age, but typically more mature candidates who have been out of work for a period of time. And they run programs, and that's a lot of the large organizations, especially the large corporate ones. So that's something which is a huge focus, but it also focuses on the social mobility aspect as well of what's going on within the world. But also what they find is when they hire returners come with a lot more skills and experience, and they're also typically females, and they're typically BAME candidates as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm glad, Janice, that you mentioned that generations report, that generation study earlier in your introduction, because that gives a lot of information on what's happening to people globally who are age 45 plus. Yeah. And there's so many things that organizations can do. Obviously, DEI is a great piece, and DEI includes ageism, of course, but also to train their staff, because what has been happening and what that report showed is that people who are screening the resumes, they're usually younger people. And
Mm,
so they tend to want to hire people who
right.
look and sound
Yeah.
like them. So
Yeah.
for as for organizations, they should be training their staff to say, listen, we're looking for people regardless of age or
Mm,
regardless of where their background. We're looking for people who are capable of doing the work. That should be the number one focus.
yeah.
And the funny thing, and to add to expand on the report as well, is that even though they are they're selecting people who are in their age group, 34 to
Yeah.
44, thereabouts,
Yeah.
when they do hire people outside of that age group, people are older than 45 years old, they realize that they perform at the same level and most times above the level of the younger
Yeah.
worker.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that organizations should be looking at in terms of who will bring the best value as opposed
Yeah.
to just focusing on
Yeah.
age, because like I said earlier, with age comes wisdom. And the flip side to that though is, if an organization is going to focus so much on age, do you really want to work with companies like that,
Very true.
so
Very true.
ask yourself
Yeah.
that question as well.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Thank you for that. So let me just take a couple of excuse me, a couple of questions from the audience. Brucine, this is for you actually, because Vincine's asking, can you expand about matching the energy in the room?
So if you've got hiring managers who are talking really quite slow and they're not giving you eye, or they're giving you eye contact, or they're not giving you eye tact, it's just about matching their energy. So I naturally am quite, like, I'm bubbly, so like I'm not matching anyone's energy right now because I'm all over the place, if that makes sense. That's probably my definition of kind of matching the audience in the room. Whereas now I'm matching the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that
So
help?
yeah, so really it's just about reading the room. So you don't want to be, if someone speaks a little bit quieter or a bit slower, it's just recognizing that. Because I'm a naturally quick talker, very fast talker. So sometimes I have to slow myself down because I realize that they're probably not picking up on what I'm saying because they don't think the same speed I do,
Yes.
or just to get myself understood. Because they probably perceive me as being maybe a little bit either nervous. They may give me the benefit of the doubt to say nervous. They may think, is she like this all the time? For goodness sake, I don't want to work this woman. She'd tire me out, right? And then another question for Vincine. She says, what are some tips for Black women over 60 navigating the job market? I don't know if you popped in late, Vincine, because we kind of tackled some of this, but ladies, if you can just kind of give a couple of tips that would help Vincine.
So I think what we said was gosh, I can't remember what we talked about. We've talked about so much. We talked
It was
about
not focus. The mindset. It was mindset.
The
yeah, we talked
mindset
about
shift is
mindset.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also making sure that you think about yourself and no one else, because the only person who's in control of the opportunities that you're going to progress is yourself, and just making sure that you have put the right effort and preparation in for that particular interview. So I think that's really important. But it's also not worrying about who your competition is, because that isn't important at all. The only competition is yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'll just add, the first thing, don't even think of your age, whether you're
Mm.
60 or over. There's an ad on television that I love, and it says, age is a number and mine is unlisted. So I
Wow.
have just taken,
I want that on a t-shirt.
age is a number and mine is unlisted. So that's how you should look at it. That's one. But
Yeah.
also focus on your strengths by identifying all the ways that you would bring value. to an organization. And I know we covered it before, and I'm sure when you're listening to this recording after, you'll pick up some, some additional tips. But those are some of the things that you can do, because sometimes we make an assumption. Yes, ageism is there and it's out there. But sometimes we are the ones who kind of say, well, the first thing they're going to look at is my age, when sometimes that's not the issue. So focus on identify the ways that you could bring value to the organization and focus there, as opposed to focusing so much on your age.
Yeah.
And then my last tip would be also, if you haven't been interviewing recently, then get some go onto YouTube and do some interview practices, because I think that's really important to understand the types of interviews that are out there. But also, if you've got an ex-colleague you can speak to, just do some interview practice, because that's really important. It's just making sure you're ready for an interview.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, because I do a whole lot of interview coaching, and what I say to my clients is they have all the different acronyms, a SOAR, STAR, what have you. I use CAR for two reasons. I said, you CAR, CAR. I said, you are in the driver's seat in the interview. So yes, you might go to that interview thinking that, well, Brucine is the VP of HR, so she's in charge. Well, listen, if you did not have value, Brucine would not have invited you to the interview.
Absolutely.
So in your mind, create in your mind that you're on a level playing field. You have something that they need. And then you focus on, like I said, the core. What challenge in the different situations, what challenges did you face? What actions did you take? And based on those actions, what was the result, or what were the results? These days, especially if I'm coaching senior level executives, I focus on two things. So I switch from car, I switch to AI. Right. What actions did you take, and what impact did you make? And that's and tell your story. When you know your story, everything becomes clear. It's your story. You're not making it up. So that makes you more confident. So you can go into the interview and says, when they say, describe a time when, you can reflect and think of a time when that was happening. What did you do, and what impact did you make? After that, age becomes irrelevant.
Fabulous. That age becomes unlisted, because how many people love that term. And let me tell you something, I will be having that. You will see me next time with a t-shirt with that on. So we're coming down to our last questions before we wrap up. So, and it's something LinkedIn that Brucine said, and it's just a question I wanted to put out there. Is networking, you probably answered this, is networking still a part of the recruitment process? I know back in the day, it used to be go out and meet somebody, network, go to these functions and, shake hands and that kind of stuff. Is networking still a part of the recruitment process?
Absolutely. That's all I do every day. And that's where I personally think that a lot of it depends on I guess some of the opportunities, if the clients that you're trying to find are on LinkedIn. But I think if you're following the organizations, finding out what they do, then you've also got information on that organization. So using LinkedIn as your networking platform, I think is really, really useful. And hiring managers, again, you can, if you've got an interview with John Smith, you look at John Smith's profile and he played rugby for whoever, then you've got something to have a conversation with them about, because it's very hard going into an interview not knowing who's interviewing you at times.
It's true.
Yes, absolutely. Networking is as important as it was prior to the pandemic, and it's easier these days because you can have I call instead of informational interviews these days, I term it career conversations. You can have career conversations with people. Reach out to them, ask them for 15 to 20 minutes of their time, where you can ask them questions about themselves, about their career trajectory, and how they've done. So it's very important, because now once you have reached out, once you have had a conversation, you have moved now from a cold contact to a warm contact.
Yeah.
Of course, you're not going to ask them for a job immediately or anything. You just want to have conversations with with them. So yes, networking is very important, and that's only gonna get better actually, as
Fabulous.
opposed to
Fabulous.
less.
Oh, so do you know 45 minutes has gone past already? So how quickly was that? Fantastic. So what I took from that is the fact is, we're more than viable. In fact, as I said, we are the power trifecta. So we keep on doing us. Society's perception, I think, of over 50s really needs to catch up with reality. We're not going anywhere. In fact, we're going to be a bigger cohort of people. And so going forward, employers really need to look at tackling ageism. And if those who do be able to capitalize on a really valuable resource of the older worker, and they'll be the ultimate winners. They'll be the ultimate winners. So, ladies, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me today. And for my listening audience, thank you so much for joining us, and for your input. If you liked what you heard, or you want to know more information, or want to find out a little bit more hits and tips, strategies, you can head over to my website, jannysutherland.com, to sign up for my weekly newsletter. You can hear my podcast, This Woman Can. I'm launching the This Woman Can community, which is newly launched, specifically for Black women over 40 who are navigating careers. Now, when it comes to the Black, female, and 50 plus, the power trifecta, I've got a number of topics I want to cover over the next couple of months. So we're looking at toxic workplaces and dealing with microaggressions, especially as I'm a mid-career mature woman. Having a career with young children, and you're over 50. Having a career with children and aging parents, so being part of the sandwich generation. If you'd like to be involved in any of those discussions, or if there are any particular topics you'd like me to cover off the next few months that you feel really need to be addressed for the Black women over 50, just let me know. DM me, message me, Janice Sutherland. You've got my link, you know where I am. And until next time, thank you so much for joining me. It's absolutely always a delight and always a pleasure to have you join us. So thank you very much. Take care.